Welcome to Nexus. I'm Wanda Allen Abraha, the Director of the Human Relations Department. We are excited to bring you today's program. The Human Relations Department enforces and encourages fair treatment and equal rights for the citizens and residents of the city of Winston-Salem. The Human Relations Department has three key areas of responsibility. They are investigating housing discrimination based on race, color, national origin, religion, disability, family status, and gender, investigating landlord-tenant complaints, and conducting cultural diversity education and inclusion training and outreach. This television program is a part of our education and outreach efforts. All Nexus television programs feature community partners. During this episode, we will be speaking with Mayor Pro Tempore Denise Adams regarding Juneteenth and Dr. Cynthia Villa-Gomez regarding the African American Heritage Initiative. Now let's join Adolfo Briceño of our staff, who will interview today's guests.
Well, thank you very much for being with us in this edition of Nexus TV. In this, our first segment, we have a very important guest. This is Mayor Pro Temp Adams. Thank you very much for being with us, Mayor Pro Temp.
Hi there. How's everyone doing?
I hope we're doing good, getting ready, I guess, for a little bit
For
more.
Juneteenth.
Yes, Juneteenth, and I was going to say a normalization, I guess, of the activities, a little bit more than it has been in the past. Well, in this first segment of Nexus TV, we're going to be talking about Juneteenth, which is an important festival that has been recently recognized by the Council of Winston-Salem. Mayor Pro Temp, Adams, I'm going to start asking you, what is the significance of the Juneteenth holiday?
Well, the significance, Adolfo, is the marking in American history of when African Americans were supposedly freed from slavery. The Emancipation Proclamation was issued by the President, Abraham Lincoln, and it was read at certain places all over the country when it happened. Because, you know, they didn't have cell phones and telephones and social media where they could just text it and send out the word. It had to go out basically by horseback, word of mouth, however long it took to get from one town to the other, and telegraph. They had to telegraph. Mm-hmm. But it was read from whether it was churches, county seats, courthouses, main city halls, in the middle of a town square. But the significance was to let America know that the African American Negro slave was no longer enslaved, but free. So it's very, very significant. My great-grandmother, who lived to be 115 years old, I was 9 years old when she died back in 1963. And she told us as young children about what it was like for her as a slave when they got the word in South Carolina, Kershaw, Taxi Hall, South Carolina, on the plantation, that they were free. She said that everybody just quit working and they ran down those dirt white sandy roads with all them pine trees, and you could just hear people crying and shouting throughout the woods and everything. You could hear people running through the woods, just shouting. I mean, like faith, Holy Ghost shouting in the middle of the road, barefooted, tattered rags, because they had been told that they were no longer slaves. So it means a lot to me personally, as well as an elected official here in Winston, but it's very personal to me as to why I sought out to get the city to recognize Juneteenth as a holiday.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Now, How does the city of Winston-Salem commemorate and celebrate Juneteenth? What are we going to do, Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Adams? I'm sorry.
Over the past few years, Adolfo, the city has partnered with the Triad Cultural Arts in some way or another, who are basically the bearers of the June 14th initiative for our city, and has been for quite a while. Probably dating back, I can't remember whether it's the late 80s or the 90s, might be the 90s. I do know Charlotte is considered to be the first city to officially recognize Juneteenth. We've always partnered, but because now we have made Juneteenth a city holiday, employees get to have a paid day off. No different than Martin Luther King holiday, not a paid day off. We're hoping that people would do service projects and volunteerism and other things to help the cause of racism and diversity and hatred and whatever in our community. But this year, we became the major partner, presenting partner of Juneteenth, and that's significant. So what that does is allow us to provide resources for the Triad Cultural Arts to go forth and create an even bigger and better Juneteenth celebration, which we've been doing all over the city. It's been at the Coliseum, it's been at the Annex, it's been on 5th Street, it's been in Winston-Salem State. Now it's over the past 3 or 4 years, it's been downtown at the Innovation Quarter at Bailey Park. So it allows us to assist with the resources and to show our citizens that we just didn't vote on a holiday in theory, but we actually voted on a holiday in principle and actual engagement.
That's awesome. We're backing up our words with actions.
Definitely.
Sort of say. Now, how long has the city of Winston-Salem has been involved with celebrating the Juneteenth festival, Mayor Pro Tem Adams?
Well, like I said, from what I can remember, Adolfo, and don't hold me to it, it's been quite a while. I do know it's been back to the 90s. I don't recall anything earlier than the 90s. Mm-hmm. So we're going to say it's been over 20-something years that we've been celebrating it. But the celebration largely started within the Black community here in Winston. There was basically no sponsorships like we see now. It was basically left up to the Black community to celebrate Juneteenth. And that included, again, lots of food, lots of singing, lots of dancing, lots of gospel church choirs, lots of crafts and culture. And it has grown over the years exponentially into what it is now.
Now, why is it important for the city employees and the local communities to celebrate Juneteenth, Mayor Pro Tem Adams?
Well, it's important because the world we live in is very diverse. The world we live in is supposed to be inclusive. The world we live in is supposed to be equitable. But that's not necessarily true. And that only happens when government and other entities step up to create or engage the community in activities that the community is not usually engaged in. Juneteenth is important, again, from a diversity, inclusion, equitable participation. You get to learn more of the history. Again, a conversation. And there's a week of activity, there are days of activities of Juneteenth where people that aren't African American can engage in conversations about this holiday, about this moment in time in history, and why it's very important to African Americans, but it's important to American history. American history was built on slavery. America as we know it was built on slavery, you know, and not just African American people were part of that history, but all indigenous people, all the people that came from South America and Mexico and other places in the world, other peoples of color from Haiti and Cuba. So it's important that if you really want to take a piece for a moment of what my culture is about to some degree and my history, come out and participate or join virtually the Juneteenth celebrations that'll be going on very soon over the next week and a half.
Councilmember Adams, now, how may city residents get involved in Juneteenth?
Oh, that's easy. They should go to the site, Triad Cultural Arts, their website, Facebook. They should go and get online with the city of Winston-Salem because there's information there. Again, social media, the Chronicle, their website. You can also go to the Winston-Salem Journal. They had an article this past weekend about it. And they've always offered great coverage along with the Chronicle and other media outlets. But that's how they can see the schedule of events, the events they can participate in, everything from children's events to adult events to senior events, lots of artists, musicians, discussions, theoretical discussions, philological conversations on how and why Juneteenth came to be. It's not, like some people, they think that African Americans, Black folk, we want too much. I don't think we want too much. We want everything that everybody else wants. And so henceforth, when you have all of these holidays in America that recognizes white men and white culture and white history, there has to be a point in this history, Adolfo, where there are designated holidays of recognition for Latino Americans, for African Americans, for Asian Americans, for the indigenous people, Americans. We can't no longer just put all of us in a box and allow everything to be about one culture. It's up to us to make the change and create the change.
Yes, I agree. I hope the country is getting better at that, but it will take the effort of all of us and the participation of all of us, and also this change of mentality that it is possible to thrive in this nation, regardless of who you are and how ethnically different or singular or general you may be, whatever you want to choose for that, and it is perfectly possible to do all that, and and celebrate other cultures and other achievements from ethnicities, and without really thinking that is going to be detrimental to you in any way. I think we should move past that.
I agree.
But eventually, I think the country will get better, hopefully, at that. Mayor Pro Tem Denise Adams, thank you for your time. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you would like to add in this conversation?
I would like to tell people that the city does its best, like most cities. We're not perfect government, to educate its citizens on different perspectives, different cultures that are within their city. I would ask each and every one of you to go to our website. Our Human Relations Department does an outstanding job of making sure that the city stays engaged, on top of our game, and helping our community to understand what diversity, inclusion, and equity means. So please go to the City of Winston-Salem's website and click on our Human Relations Department. And if you have any questions, you can have contacts there that will help you in any way necessary to help you better understand other cultures and other things that events that happen within the city, engaging diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for your message, for your final message. Mayor Pro Tem Denise Adams, thank you for your time. And thank you folks for being with us in this first segment of Nexus TV. We'll be back with a second guest. Thank you again, Mayor.
Thank you, Adolfo. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, thank you for all of you that are still with us in this segment of Nexus TV. In this our second segment of Nexus TV, we have a very special guest. She is Dr. Cynthia Villagomez. She's Associate Professor and Program Coordinator of History for the Department of History, Politics, and Social Justice for Winston-Salem State University. She is also a former chair of this department. Dr. Villagomez, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very honored to be here.
Wonderful, thank you. Now, we're going to be talking briefly about a very, very important initiative that we're calling the African American Heritage Initiative, which stands for AAHI. What is your role in this initiative? And explain the initiative a little bit to us, Dr. Villagomez, for those who are not familiar with this program.
Yes, so my role currently is the executive chair of our committee. I was recently appointed to the committee to replace another member. And at my very first meeting, the committee nominated and elected me as the executive chair. So my role is to be supportive for all of the members for their assignments, and then to really coordinate with the public and be a liaison between the public and the city for all of the endeavors and upcoming projects that relate to carrying out the mission of our committee.
Yes, go ahead.
So the committee itself was formed a little over 2 years ago. So April 15th, 2019, the City Council approved the formation of this committee. And we have a wonderful website that I would refer all of our viewers to. So they can find it right at the city's website. And so if they type in African American Heritage Initiative Committee, they'll see the post or the page for our committee that explains really who we are and what our mission and purpose is. So the purpose and function, and I'll read what is there on the website, is to mobilize all sectors of the African American community in Winston-Salem to participate in uncensored sharing of life as an African American during segregation and the efforts of desegregation. And then our vision is to connect all sectors of the African American community and create a vision for incorporating African American contributions into the ongoing history of the city. And really, our vision is to help everyone to understand within our city as engaged citizens that African American history nationally is American history, and then locally, African American history is Winston-Salem history. In other words, without knowledge of all the wonderful contributions and all the lived experiences, both good and bad, without all of us understanding the African American role and participation and experience, we will never get the big picture. And so really, this is an initiative that we invite everyone, no matter what their background in our city, to participate in, whether it is to participate in our collective production of knowledge and gathering and creation of our historical memories, or to make contributions and to work directly with the committee in some way with giving evidence, or eventually, as things settle down from COVID-19, we will be organizing actual community events at various places, churches, businesses, et cetera, across the city to really involve people and to gather oral histories, to gather photos and letters, et cetera.
What are the area focus for the AAHI?
Of course, COVID shut down much of the work in the actual community that our committee chairs were working on. But we really hope over the summer to begin to reconnect with various groups and various individuals to begin to collect oral histories. So anyone who would be interested in giving an oral history, a wonderful memory of their life growing up in Winston-Salem and living in Winston-Salem. And again, we really want to focus on people's everyday lives. This is not going to be a history just of the quote unquote big and famous people. We really want to focus on the everyday lives of the people who are most wonderful, and that is our everyday people. So all facets of life, from going to school to work to riding the bus or walking to where you need to go, what people did for fun, how people overcame all of the challenges, and especially the challenges that both the informal and then the institutionalized challenges of racism. So our goal is to first collect the stories, the oral stories from the elders of our community, because their stories are most precious. And we are also hoping that whenever we schedule interviews with our elders or with any citizen who wants to give an oral history, that we would invite them to bring artifacts that we can either photograph, or if they want to share photographs of mementos, of their own photographs or of letters or newspaper articles, and we can take photographs of those and add those to our archive.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Villagomez. Now, what upcoming events does the AAHI have planned?
So we have essentially 3 things that I will outline and underscore. So we will have the publication of our quarterly newsletter. So that will be coming out soon with updates that will include much of what we accomplished in our recent monthly meetings. So the committee meets for the first Wednesday of every month at 2:00. So this newsletter really outlines the important things that we've accomplished. Then coming up very, very soon on Juneteenth, so we will have the Juneteenth celebration, the festival supported by our city. And so certain members of our committee, including myself, will be at the city booth distributing our information. So we'll have some information and a little sheet with our contact information and our work to share with anyone in the committee who'd like to come up to the city booth. So I hope to be meeting lots of people there, and hopefully I'll be able to inspire people to join in our efforts. And then on Juneteenth, we'll also be launching the city's website of our introductory videos for different aspects of what the committee has accomplished already and where we plan to go. So that will all be happening on Juneteenth.
How can someone submit the documents and photos to this initiative, the AAHI initiative? And how can anybody become involved with this initiative, Doctor?
Thank you again, Adolfo, for that question. So first, I would refer everyone back to the city's website. So there are very clear step-by-step instructions for submitting files. And so there is a submission form as well as a link. And so I haven't submitted anything myself, but again, anyone who would want to submit anything could follow all of the directions. And so we're asking that people would submit no more than 12 items per file. And so we would like for every file to be identified by name with a description of what's there. And we would want each file to be related to one event or one organization. And if there are any photographs for there to be in the submission form, identification of as many individuals in the photograph as possible, and then a deeper description of what might be going on in the photograph. And so any of that kind of helpful information, so we can catalog and categorize and archive all of the files in a way that eventually will be very effective and user-friendly when our archive is expanded and made available online. It's also important to note that the copyright issues. So again, our website explains that nothing should be submitted if a person doesn't have the copyright, then they should not submit something that is not theirs. And our city staff is very good too. I mean, they will be reviewing everything that is submitted, and on our at our Wednesday monthly meetings, we usually get a report about what has been submitted. So we're getting the feedback from there.
And thank you very much for your time. Well, you heard it, folks. This was Cynthia Villagomez. She's a doctor. She's associate professor of program coordinator of history in the Department of History, Politics, and Social Justice at Winston-Salem State University. She's a former chair of that department. And well, you heard it. If you have anything regarding these events, especially in the African American community, anything, you heard it, church bulletin, ball debutante picture, program of some sort, that if you can contribute to this effort, please do so. So this history will be remembered in a very dignified way. Thank you again for your time, Dr. Villagomez, and thank you all for listening to this edition of Nexus TV. We will be back with the Nexus Challenge with Jamie. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Adolfo. I'm Jamie Waldeck, and this is the Nexus Challenge, where we test your knowledge about fair housing laws. Here's our first question. Susie has been diagnosed with severe depression and is disabled as defined by the Fair Housing Act. Her doctor prescribed Susie a dog to help alleviate some of her symptoms. Susie asked her landlord if she can have a dog as a reasonable accommodation for her disability. Her landlord's response was A, yes, but tell Susie she'll need to pay a $250 pet deposit. B, yes, but she needs to provide proof that the animal is trained and certified to be a service animal. Or C, none of the above. The answer is C, none of the above. The landlord cannot charge Susie a pet deposit for her animal because it is not a pet, but rather a service/companion animal required for disability. Further, the landlord cannot ask for proof that the animal is trained. Here's our next question. If a resident violates his or her lease based on federal fair housing law, which of the following people would be protected? A, a divorced female single parent. B, a 35-year-old single Muslim man. C, a 50-year-old white man. Or D, all of the above. The answer is D, all of the above. Everyone is protected by the Federal Fair Housing Act as long as the discrimination based on one of the 7 protected classes: race, color, religion, sex, handicap, family status, and national origin. And here's our last question. If a resident violates their lease and you have solid grounds for eviction, you should give that resident a second chance. If A, the resident is a member of a protected class and you're worried he will sue you for discrimination. B, you are good friends with the resident and you want to give them a break. C, you give all of your residents a second chance in the same situation. The answer is C. Treat residents consistently when holding them accountable for breaking the rules. If a resident violates your lease, you may give that resident a second chance only if you give all of your residents a second chance in the same situation. And that's this month's Nexus Challenge. I'm Jamie Waldeck. Now let's go back to Wanda.
We hope you enjoyed the program. Thank you for watching Nexus. I'm Wanda Allen Abraha. See you next time.